All right, man. I got everything set
Yeah,
up.
I'm good. I'm just grabbing
What's
my
good? What's good?
coffee.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another Cash Flow Amigos live episode. I'm here with my man Sean. Sean, say what's good.
What's going on, guys? I'm just grabbing some cup of coffee. I'll be right there.
Damn, coffee at this time, you're wilding.
I need to, man. I was doing some studying.
Yeah, it helps you sleep or no? So,
I mean, I'll
I'd say drink
pass
a
out
cup of coffee,
regardless
then
when
I'm
I'm
knocked
tired.
out.
I mean, how many Spanish people drink coffee at this time and
Yeah,
still
that's true.
fall asleep?
That's facts. That's facts. That's what's up, bro. Well, yeah, man. I mean, honestly, guys, today I wanted to talk a little bit about the markets, talk a little bit about the recession that's going on. I asked my buddy Sean to come through. He's one of the students in Cash Flow Amigos. But honestly, this guy is he's a mind, he's a brain, bro. He has his own life experience, and he definitely has some value to bring to the table. So I definitely wanted him to come over here and just talk to me for a bit, talk to you guys, share some information, and just go back and forth with him. So it's gonna be a real normal dialogue. If you guys have any questions, feel free to type in the chat. If you're just watching this stream back, then make sure you guys are liking the stream, subscribing, and leave any comments that you or any questions that you have in the comment section. I greatly appreciate that. Um, but yeah, bro, we were talking a little bit about before we actually we went live, bro. We were talking a little bit about the recession in 2008. I remember you were talking, you were saying that you were playing ball, right? When it was going on.
Yeah, when that happened, I was playing basketball at the time, so there wasn't really any worries about that for me. Getting a check cut every 2 weeks just to play basketball.
No way, you play ball like professionally, like in college
Oh
or
yeah, Puerto Rico
oh in
in
Puerto
Puerto
Rico.
Rico at the time. Yeah,
Okay, fire. I didn't know that. That's dope. How
I
many years
mean,
did that
yeah, at
go
the
on for?
time, I'm 40 years old now, so at the time, when they're starting out, you don't get paid as much as they do now. These guys over there are making bankroll right out of college.
Yeah. Damn. So you're familiar with Bad Bunny's team?
Oh, Santurce,
Santurce, yeah. The
los
buddies are getting
cangrejeros,
paid
yeah,
then.
yeah, man, they are. That's always been the Papi Chulo team.
Oh, okay.
Seriously, they've always been
Oh, I
known
can
for
relate.
that.
I can
Best,
relate.
best uniform, the biggest arena. They
That's
all for fresh haircuts, like similar.
that's what's up. That's what's up. No, yeah, man. The reason why I asked was because, well, I wanted to see if we can find some parallels between what we were seeing back then and what we were kind of seeing now. You feel me? Like I'm almost on the same boat. For me, I don't really remember much about 2008, but I do remember to a certain extent reviewing it. Well, not really, not to a certain extent. I do remember extensively reviewing it over the past few months and over the past few years, like going back into it, understanding what happened, looking at a chart. But emotionally, I want to connect with how that time impacted people. Um, I was legit. So for me, it wasn't really so much that I felt the difference. I mean, I was always poor. So, I mean, technically when you're poor, you never know you're poor. You don't have money. You know what I mean? Like that's just kind of how it feels all the time. So I never really lost or felt like I couldn't get anything. We couldn't get anything to begin with. But um, for me, I didn't really feel much of a recession as a kid. I don't know. Did you see anything in Puerto Rico that kind of changed like around 2007, 2008?
I mean, honestly, back then I really didn't see the difference either. Like you said, everybody was still just. It's either you're struggling, just getting by, or you're trying to do what that person's doing.
Yeah.
So I really couldn't tell the difference.
Yeah, honestly, bro. I mean, I think recessions are kind of overrated in a way. Like, I don't think it's ever been as bad as like Great Depression, stuff like that. Like, we're not. I don't think it'll ever get to that point again. I don't think the markets will allow it, or the government will allow it for that matter. But I can say for the most part, living in it is different. Like, if you move stupid, you're definitely going to feel the effects. One thing that I realized too is
Yes.
that over the past few months, something that a lot of people probably will have experienced and are going to experience is something called the wealth effect. Are you familiar with it?
No, I'm not.
All right, so I was watching a video and I'll show you and I'll probably link it and I'll tell you a little bit more about it. But like the wealth effect is this effect where you make so let's say for example you're making like 50K a year, right? And then you have a good year, 2 years. Let's say for example 2020, 2021 happened and you go from making 50K a year to let's say you popped off on a crypto investment and you made 300K in 1 year, right? So what happens is now that you made 300K in 1 year, you get excited and you're like, damn, I made 300K in 1 year. So you start to elevate your living expenses, right? You start to maybe, for
Yes.
example, you buy a new car, you start spending crazy. Your monthly expenses go from 3,000 a month to 6,000 a month, right? And you're excited, you're making money. And then what happens is after making all this money, the market corrects, and then you're experiencing kind of what we're experiencing right now. And so
Yes.
you're left with less money, right? But you're still under the same living conditions, spending more money than when you had, as similar to when you had all that money, but you don't have that anymore. And so they call this kind of transition in your actions, right? The wealth effect. And ultimately, the wealth effect, the effect is, you're left with less money and more spending, and then you're ultimately selling off at low prices and all this stuff. And that's something I want to touch up on, because I feel like so many people right now are experiencing that. I experienced it. I personally have gone through it before.
I could talk about that as well, even if it's
Talk
just
to me. Yeah.
briefly. That last year, well, not last year, about a year and a half ago, two tops. I started working with Cold Cold. I got my CDL. I had the brief surgery, but so I was out for about a month and a half. But despite that little bit of income that I didn't bring in, I still only made about 35,000. So how much? It wouldn't have been that much more of a difference.
Right.
So then you fast forward, I get this new job, and I'm making 28.50 an hour, overtime after 8 hours. I'm doing 67 hours a week, and I'm getting paid weekly. So you could just imagine the numbers real quick. So I'm like, oh shit. So little by little, without realizing it, obviously your goal is to buy a house, to live better. So before you know it, I'm like, oh shoot. As I'm educating myself now, I'm like, wow, Sean, you have a lot of overhead. Like you're making good money,
Yeah.
but you're having to figure out to cut corners here and there, just still be able to save. And now with my investments, to still be able to DCA in. You understand? So I'm like, okay, I don't need this iHeartRadio subscription. Like,
Yeah.
So now that you pointed, that's now that you pointed it out, I don't need those free skips. Those extra unlimited play. I could cancel that, but I've had to resort to that. And now what you're saying is, I'm like, shit. I just gave myself, I put myself in the hole a little bit.
Yeah, and it happens, bro. Like I feel like it happened to me. I mean, honestly, bro, not a lot with the subscriptions too. I think the subscriptions catches everybody. First of all, like everybody feels like when they get their bread up, they can afford any subscription. $5.99 a month becomes nothing, right? But it does change when you have two, three, four subscriptions, and you're like, damn, I'm like paying 40, $50 a month for all these subscriptions, and then once again that wealth effect hits. So I want to talk about that because I feel like a lot of people are starting to go through that. And people are scared, right? Some people are concerned with like the future and kind of what's going on. I really don't think that we're gonna get and it's gonna be that bad. Look, it's definitely a
See,
perspective
but
thing.
that's it. The
For some
reason why
people, it
I
will
could
be a
agree
little
with you
different,
is just the educational part. If people would understand that a
right?
little bit more, then they
Yeah,
would start, okay, understand the market, to understand, okay, the inflation, okay, we need to cut back over here as a home, as a unit. So,
correct.
I mean, so it could potentially still continue.
Yeah, there's a lot of things you can do to mitigate the feeling of it happening. Ultimately, though, you got to find the root cause, which is you started spending more money because you were making more money, right? Like that was really the root cause. The holding back. I saw Gary V post something today. He was talking about being very cautious about what you're spending, right? He was talking about like, oh, do you really need to take the Uber, right? Can you walk? Can you, are you gonna really spend money on that? All these different things. Essentially, finding ways to start cutting back, because a lot of people think that it's going to get a little bit more tough, right? That this recession is really going to hit. If you don't already think we're in one, I personally think we're already in one. To be very clear, it's not even a question of are we headed for a recession? I think we've been in a recession for a few months now, and I think it's going to gradually start to get a little bit more difficult as we see things kind of like become a little harder for people to live. I honestly I see it as the cost of living has already gone up. My mom complains all the time about the light in the house and stuff, and she's like, "Yo, stop using so much energy. Put down the light, right? Like, turn off the lights." Da, 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 da." And I'm like, "Yo, it's inflation. Like, it's like we've been using the same amount of energy since last year. We used to live with 5 people in the house. Now we only have 4 people in the house, and we're using probably less energy, and it's still more expensive. But she thinks that it's us consuming more. The reality is that
it's like
electricity
it's
is
like
just
hold
more
it's like hold
expensive."
your breath, stop breathing.
Exactly, right? And unfortunately, the mindset, to a Hispanic household is, hey, let's start like cutting back, right? That's what everybody likes to do. as opposed to, moving forward, educating yourself. Okay, what's happening? How can we mitigate that?
Yes,
So I'm always
yes.
excited to help people that want to keep learning. But ultimately, that's what people decide to do, and it's not a bad strategy. You definitely want to start looking into cutting back a little bit if you weren't as conscious when you started making a little bit more money. I think it definitely is a conversation to have, and honestly, it occurs. It does occur. We got Hina in the chat. She's out here laughing at us and laughing at the wealth
Hey,
effect.
hey.
But yeah, man, I mean, it's true. And so, yeah, like pretty much the wealth effect happens. I mean, it does occur because essentially the market does have a high performing set of years or two, and yeah, and then over time, you start to kind of experience this prosperity that doesn't last very long. Now, how can you continue that? So you mentioned that you started cutting back a little bit, right? With
Yes.
specifically with your subscriptions. Tell me a little bit more about that. What have you done?
I mean, I realized when every periodically, because the panic buttons start to hit here and there. How when you check your bank account, I'm like, what the hell? Of like iHeartRadio, I don't even have an iPhone anymore because it says
Yeah.
iPhone, even though you could use the iHeart app anywhere. So I'm like, I need to take care of this, and and you start noticing other little charges, like I have a home warranty, but I'm like, no, you need that in case an appliance breaks. And then you start to just to resort to like, okay, do you need to really drive over here and use that gas because you also did lease a Forerunner, so so do you need to
Oh
drive
man.
that far? Do you really need to go to that store? You can go to this store,
Yeah.
or like even all of that. You start thinking, you know, ways that could save no matter what. Like, okay, because if I don't drive that far, I'm saving money on my miles, but I'm also saving money in my gas. So
Yeah.
I'm just trying to, every way,
Ultimately, if you
I
think
could
about it,
possibly can.
ultimately that mentality is what brings upon the recession. People start to spend less, right? Like when things get a little bit more difficult, people spend less money flowing through the economy
It's not so much that
means
I'm just
that
trying to spend less.
no,
I'm
not
just
just
trying
you.
to
I mean
go
in
get through
general.
this, but
In
while
general.
still creating the extra streams of income so that I
Yes,
can still maintain this lifestyle. I'm not, I don't want to like,
correct.
not continue where I did and built my success up, and not be able to enjoy it. But however, for this brief moment, you have to make the adjustments and you have to
Yeah.
evolve. You can't stay stagnant. That's how I just see it as.
No, you're 100% right. I mean, once again, you built that standard of living because that's what you ideally wanted, right? Like you wanted to create that level of
Yes.
lifestyle for yourself, which is 100% I respect and I get you. But what I want to reiterate is more so the fact that like, you know, people do, like for example me, I go into the year, I start spending a little bit more, maybe eating out at more restaurants, going out to more places, traveling a little bit more, right? And then you start to look at that, you start to look at things, right, how money's moving, and then you're like, damn, maybe I shouldn't take that vacation, maybe I shouldn't go out to eat this often this week. Damn, you know what, I see Hex is down, right, 94%. Instead of going out to eat, maybe I should invest in Hex. Maybe I should put some money into this. So you do start to change a little bit, but it's those psychological changes, it's those action changes ultimately that do result in the economy changing, because it's not just you doing it, it's the world doing it, right? Everybody looks at the circumstances and they're like, oh wait, prices aren't going up as much as they were. Now they're going down. Now we got to start to move a little bit different. So I do feel you, and I definitely do get where you're coming from. And honestly, the wealth effect does hit some people a little bit harder than others. I think if you're smart about it and you go about it the right way, yes, you will increase your standard of living, but it doesn't mean you shouldn't. I think ultimately, man, if it's you got one life to live, you're not gonna live out here in misery.
Yeah,
Spending
at the
corners
end of the day, there's so
everywhere,
many
doing
other
all this
ways of
stuff.
making money as well, even if just a substitute, like you told me with the surveys. I mean, there's so many things
That
that
was
you
the
could
nugget.
do. Yeah, I like that. I gotta look into that. I saved that. But there's a lot that you could do just a little bit of extra money, just a
Yeah,
little
for
bit,
sure.
so you don't have to really downsize and all of a
Yeah.
sudden really push the panic button that much. Like you see everything I'm doing. Like I'm trying to stay proactive.
Yeah, no, I feel you on that, man. Look, we got Hex is the way. What's up, Hex? How you doing, man? He goes, "What do you think about Hex going in a bull market before the rest of crypto?" Um, you want to talk a little bit about this, Sean? You want to give it a go?
I mean, what do I think about Hex going into? I mean, I'm pretty excited about it though, as far as
So it's a
the
yes for you.
pulse
You think he's
chain.
gonna have it?
Excuse me.
So you think it's a yes for you? What do you think about Hex going in a bull market before the rest of crypto?
I mean,
You hope so. I'll tell you this much.
Yeah,
I do think it could happen. It's very possible. We did, yeah, and you know, it's kind of like, yeah, it's like what Hex is always said. We entered the bear first. We're already down
yes.
94%. Like the reality is we're already down. You know, a lot of people are gonna look at they're gonna look at at the chart, and they're gonna find opportunity not only in the technology but in the price, and it's only so much time until the buys outweigh the sells. Right now there's a lot of liquidity in the market, and I think we can even take a quick look at this. If we check out Apex and we see how much liquidity is sitting in the V2 and V3 pools, I'll tell you the answer right now. There's 278 million hex, right, sitting in these pools. And so if we calculate 278 million and we multiply that by 0.032, yeah, that is around 8.8 million. $8.8 million. Think about that. $8.8 million in buy pressure that would ultimately push market price a little bit higher. We're talking like 4 or 5, 10, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 cents as we continue to go higher and higher and higher. Because a lot of that liquidity is dispersed throughout that price range, like 4 cents, 5 cents, 6 cents, and lower. But it only takes 8.8 million to start pushing that price up. And if you look at a lot of the buy orders in Bitcoin, a lot of the buy orders in Ethereum, they push hundreds of millions of dollars. So once that volume starts to push into Hex, it doesn't take much for Hex to really start to make highs. And you know, today in the chat we were talking about Hex at $50. Is it possible, right? Because of the post that we saw, it could be possible. And it happening first before everything else, I mean, I don't see why not. We it's everything is set up for perfection for it to happen. Low liquidity. Once high demand kicks in, it's almost like the perfect storm, in my opinion.
I mean, with the numbers doing that down right now too, everybody getting in at this low is absolutely like when I
I
first
think
got in, I
anybody
got in
buying right
around
now is
March.
in a great position. I think anybody looking at into it right now is in a great position. And the reality is, bro, is if you buy the bottoms and you sell the tops, you're gonna be a happy person. You know what I mean? Like you get to live a little better. You get to buy yourself nicer things because you're playing the market right. Anybody right now that is, yes, pulling back and maybe not spending as much, but they're also not looking for opportunity, you're crazy. I think the best things about bear markets, the best thing about recessions is that they're the times where the most millionaires are created. This is where the millionaires are made. You know what I mean? Because you're buying at these lows, right? In 2000, like we were talking about the recession, right? 2007, 2008. You know, if you were buying at those highs, what was happening is you were getting it at the highest price. You were buying real estate at the highest price. You're buying stocks at the highest price. 2008, you know, 9 months, a year goes by where prices drop significantly, and then you're creating essentially opportunity in the market where things are now undervalued and people are buying in. And then you give it, you know, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years. You look at where the market is now, and you're like, damn, right? What was the difference? Well, the difference was is that you took action, right? When everything went down, you weren't stopping and you didn't stop investing. You said, okay, I'm gonna wait for things to really die down, and I'm gonna start putting in capital. So honestly, I think anybody right now looking to invest is very smart. They're very wise. I think you're making the right decision because ultimately that's what it's about. You're buying the bottom and you're selling the top. Now, it doesn't mean everything has bottomed out, right? It doesn't mean everything has bottomed out. I mean, yes, we're talking about Hex being down 94%. But there's still some things out there that probably got to go down a little bit more um, before they can go up. So, you know, that's kind of my opinion on that. Let me see. I got Hex going. What happens to get to higher prices is some early Hexicans let go their bags, just like what happened with BTC and ETH. As Hex
Keep
price goes
buying.
up, they are tempted to liquidate full bags and new buy comes. Yeah, you're 100% right. It's a distribution, literally, bro. Like you're just seeing people swap tokens. Like people who are letting go of their bags right now, they're just swapping hands with people who are wanting to get in, and they're getting in
Yeah,
at really great prices.
they're giving me everybody else another chance to keep doing this. You know, if they want to
100%.
keep doing that.
Yeah, I think metrics you want to look for right now during a recession is who has new people adopting that asset, right? Like where are new people still adopting? Like if you're looking at an asset that is losing users, you don't want to be involved. You know, Like if there was like a million users and now there's 800,000 users, nah, that's not it. But if you see that price is going down because people are selling, but there's still new users every single day. Like, bro, if you look at the new users joining Hex every single day, you got new users joining all the time, staking Hex all the time. Like that's what you're supposed to be looking at, you know? People like to look at
See,
market
that's
cap.
I would have never thought about that to look at the users part. I just know
Yeah.
I'm all in with Hex. That's why. So I would have never thought to like
Yeah, bro. I
add
encourage
other
you.
assets, look at their
Do that. Look at those
users to see that.
statistics. Look at those statistics. Look at, I mean, but here's the thing. Not everything gives you that data, right? Hex is very unique
Okay.
because you can use that data. And really, I think crypto in general is very unique because you could use that data. But ultimately, right, like, if you look at how many people are staking Hex, you see how many new stakers there are every single day. And shout out to all the Hexicans, bro, that drop these little database websites that we can look at. You're seeing all this data where people are joining every single day, staking every single day, right? More Hex, or just essentially staking more constantly, and those numbers are going up. And so that's what I personally use as like a way to see, okay, people are adopting this asset. And the same thing was happening with ETH. 2015 there was what, maybe a few thousand users, couple, tens of thousands of users using Ethereum. Now you probably have millions of wallets, millions of users around the world. Only difference was the amount of users, right? More buying power, more people interested in getting involved. So we got Fidge saying, Pulse main will make or break Hex? Question mark. If uh, Pulse is a success, Hex will be confirmed and trusted. Um, I think. All right, so I'll tell you this, man. Let's start with the first part of that question. Pulse main will make or break Hex. Um, I think regardless of the fact, Pulse chain coming out is a plus. I think Hex is good. We have solutions for that, for the gas problem. The biggest problem we've been facing is the gas problem. Like Sean, tell me how you feel about like gas. How much did you pay when you first started staking your Hex?
Oh, when I first started, I was just like, damn, like it's just expensive. Like I was
How
like,
much was it?
wow,
Like what was your average stake cost?
I can't even recall honestly because this was when I first got in March. But I just know that every transaction to me was a lot, and I didn't have a lot of money. So
Yeah. All right. So I mean significant, like 5, 10, $15, right?
anywhere from 5 to 15, it all depend on the time, and that was what the thing that sucked the most. And
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of people have issues about, oh, I got to stay up to 2 in the morning just to make a transaction that I want to do because I know it'd be cheaper than like no, like you shouldn't.
Yeah, no, I feel you. And so mind you, you were staking, so you were starting stakes, but there
Yes.
was people ending stakes in March, and that cost like hundreds of dollars. Yeah,
Wow.
hundreds of dollars because it has to calculate all that time every single day how much Hex you earned. It has to calculate every single one of that. So, I mean, we have solutions for it like Maximus DAO. I don't think that it'll make or break Hex, but Pulse Chain will enhance the experience of Hex, and the fact that it's going to exist on multiple chains is beautiful because one, it gives us a free airdrop, and this is something that I tell new users all the time. One of the most exciting parts about being in crypto is airdrops. It's literally free money. Like you're getting free money just for being involved. Like if for example, if you were in crypto, like let's say 5 years versus 5 months, those 5 years are 5 years of technology, people giving away stuff, new things launching. You probably would have had the air, the Uniswap airdrop. The Uniswap airdrop, bro, I made thousands of dollars on the Uniswap airdrop. That was free money. And the reason I got it was like because I was in Hex, funny enough. So I got
I
into
missed
Hex,
that.
I used Uniswap, and because I used Uniswap, I got Uniswap tokens. And those Uniswap tokens I sold for tens of thousands, bro. Stupid,
And that's when I heard your story.
right? And so
Yep.
it's kind of one of those things where it's like, yo, you just make bread just for being involved. Like that's just how it happens. So I tell people all the time, airdrops are it. And this is one of those, Pulse Chain is one of those airdrops that, yo, it's gonna make the experience even better. You're just gonna make the experience even better. So you just got to be in it. Like if you're in the game, if you got skin in the game, you're probably gonna make it. Um, and then if PLS is a success, Hex will be confirmed and trusted. Man, honestly, I think Hex is already. There's just a lot of naysayers, but they also add attention to it. Like, think about how many people, even in 2000 in 2009, right? Like, you had a whole recession going on, and you had Bitcoin coming around. Like, jumping from a penny to $30. People were speculating, talking about it, all this stuff, right? All this crazy stuff was happening. And people didn't trust it. Like, it was literally the token for drug dealers. Like, it was running a whole underground, it was a whole underground uh like currency. And you know what's funny? It's funny 'cause I watched Richard Hart talk about it all the
There's a
time.
movie
He's like,
about it.
huh? Yeah, yeah. Like, look at the movies. Like, look at what was happening back then. And just type in YouTube Silk Road. What was Silk Road? Bitcoin and Silk Road. Like, just research all that stuff. It's fire. And you look into it, and it's funny because Rich talks about it all the time. And he's like, bro, I saw how it was being used on Silk Road, and I was like, there's use case, there's utility here. And it shows you how people think, right? Because you have a lot of people calling it a scam right now. A lot of people are like, oh, it doesn't have, what was it that we saw today, bro? That video that Hina sent in the chat.
I can't, I was dying too. I
I'm
was
gonna
gonna
find it real
message to
quick.
it
Hold on.
too. Pull it up. Yeah,
She
I was gonna.
goes, yeah, she sends a video that it goes, he goes, it says not, hold on. I gotta find that. That was too funny. And let me see, give me 1 second. The guy says, oh my god, where is this? Oh, here it goes. Yeah, he goes low market caps, transformation. Oh, he says we look for low market
Transformation.
caps, transformational tech, and this project has neither. Right? He's talking about Hex, and I'm just like, yo, like, people really don't know. And then the guy who he was talking about says Hex was a scam and all that stuff. And it just, you have people with that narrative who just don't understand. But then you got people over here saying like, yo, there's utility, there's use case, people are using it, and they're seeing the potential for the future. So it just shows you like there's two different levels of psychology playing with each other right there. And there's people who see opportunity and those who don't. And people who see opportunity and take it, it could play out for them in the future. Now, I'm not guaranteeing anything by saying that if you invest in Hex, you're going to make money. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that it made me money. You know what I mean? Like, I made money. Like, it's been good for me. You know, if it's been good for me, I can find countless people that it's been good for. So I'm just saying, look into it. If it makes sense, it's 94% off. You might just want to consider it, right? Yeah, it says Hex is at 3 years. Hex at 3 years is trusted. We're just in price discovery at the moment. 100%. We're in price discovery, you know. And once we break these all-time highs, we're gonna see how far it can really go. You know,
That's what I'm excited about, man.
I project $7, bro. I talk about $7 all the time. Like, every time I do like a little moon math, I be using $7 as my projection. But then seeing that guy posted about it today, saying it can possibly be $53, I'm like, why not? Shit, why can't it be 60? Why can't it be 100? Right? Like, why
A lot is
can't it
gonna
be?
happen after when that movie comes out too. Depending where it's shopped at, like like he
Yeah.
said, they get trying to get in the right hands. Let they get on Netflix, bro.
No, it's perfect
All those
because
people that you were trying to get to that would didn't want to see, like the friends, your friends.
yeah.
Those are the same ones that are gonna start all of a sudden blowing up your phone because they're like, oh, that's what they were talking about.
Yeah, if it drops on Netflix, that would be hot because I mean everybody watches Netflix, you
There's a
know?
lot of documentaries about things that you don't see out in the theaters on Netflix. That's the first thing that came to my mind.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you ever get to see the AMC one? AMC, no, it was the GME and AMC, the Wall Street bets.
No,
You didn't see it?
I take a look at that
Watch it,
one.
bro.
No,
It's
I've
too
been,
funny.
yeah, I've
Nah,
been
it's
be
too
behind
funny.
it right here, doing a lot of work
I
over
don't like
here
I mean,
lately.
I don't like it much because it kinda honestly, it kinda got me excited about trading a little bit, like, and you know me, bro, I have my past with trading, I don't do it anymore. Um, like, to get back in because it was just like, damn, bro, I do remember that time where shit was just going up, people were making stupid bread. I don't like trading, I don't trade anymore, but I feel like it can induce that in people, but just learning about it, like, it shows you, the jargon, how people talk about it, like, the excitement, the meme culture, the community aspect to it. And really that's why people like rock with the community in cryptocurrency, because of all the things that it really attracts you to. You're gonna learn indirectly about a bunch of other stuff and have fun doing it. Crypto's a really fun place. But it can also take away your attention from a lot of really good things out there. Unfortunately, I see a lot of people, bro, lose a lot of money in this industry. And they're getting hit just as much by the recession too, bro. You feel me? Like, there's a lot of people who in 2020, 2021 invested in, Safe Moon, for example, invested in a bunch of scams. I don't know if you heard of Safe Moon. I don't know if you heard of like, I mean, there's a project called Drip. Everybody talking about Drip. Oh, I made this money on Drip. I'm like, bro, you guys are stupid. Like, it's a fucking pyramid scheme. Like, you can't see it. Like, you can't see it. It's in your face. Like, it's a whole ass scam. And as someone who's been scammed, once again, I can tell you because it's happened to me. You know what I mean? Like I walked the path, I got burned, like I got hurt. I know what stones to step on. I know what stones not to step on. I know what turf is solid to walk on, where it's muddy and where there's quicksand. Like I'm telling you, man, there's just some projects out there, bro, that you're not. And so, unfortunately, so to my point, 2020 and 2021, it attracts a lot of these people, and their recession is a lot harder because the reality is if you started in crypto and you got involved into a lot of these projects, you're down. You're not down like 20%, 30%, 40% in stocks. That's one thing, and or like 60%, depending on when you got invested, right? But in crypto, bro, you're down like 99%. You pretty much lost your whole bag. You got wrecked, in other words, right? So yeah, it's crazy. Let's see. Hex Away says, when I heard a Silk Road, I was turned off to BTC because I didn't want to get in trouble. 4 years later, I looked at ETH and use case and saw smart contracts were useful. Yeah, man, totally. I mean, I don't blame you, bro. Like, it's just, it's if you don't know, you don't know. Like, you don't know what you don't know. You know, that's literally all it is. Um, but I respect you because ultimately you were able to switch your opinion. Like one thing is to look at it for what it is and then completely deny it. If you denied it once, you'll never think about it again. But to change your mind and look at the possibilities of it, I respect that, man. Definitely. Fitch says, sure, Hex is trusted, but after successful mainnet. Well, it launched on ETH, bro, and honestly, ETH has already done over 10,000x, so I think it's already up. He goes, Kevin, can you drop the movie name in the chat? Yeah, let's look for the movie name real quick. It's on Netflix.
Hexable. What's it called? Of all stakes. I forgot the name of it.
Eat the Rich, the GameStop saga. That's what it's called. It's called Eat
Okay.
the Rich. Money. Yeah. But yeah, man. So let's keep talking a little bit about this recession stuff, bro. So like, yeah, we were talking about like the whole wealth effect and things that go on. Did you ever experience anything with real estate? Like, did you see any buddies of yours like losing like their houses and stuff, like their parents doing bad, anything crazy like
No,
that?
I did it, but I remember that's one thing I do remember people constantly talking about. Like that people losing their homes, and like I said, I not only was I playing basketball, I was in college still at the time. So, but yeah, yeah, I did hear about a lot of people losing their
So you heard
homes.
about it. Let's
Good thing
break
I
that
didn't,
down,
I
man.
didn't, I didn't have a house then, so I didn't have to worry. I was
Yeah,
renting,
you were straight.
but I know nowadays, right now, because with the same thing going on, a lot of people resorted to renting and selling their homes and downsizing
Yeah.
because of the right now what's going on.
But you know what's funny too? I mean, I remember 2008. That was like Hurricane Katrina in Florida. Like I remember all that stuff. Um, yeah, I remember I was super young. Dude, like it was a time where rent was $1,200 a month for a 3 bedroom, two bathroom. You feel me? At least down south. 1,200 bucks. Like that's what you pay out here for like a 1-1 now. So and I remember my parents struggling to pay for a $1,200, a month. And I know times are different. You get me? I get it, inflation and all this stuff. 2008, there's like years ago. But it just goes to show you how, dude, not even what, 14 years later, 14 years later, rent for that same apartment is probably 3,000 a month. And so
I mean,
imagine
that's
not,
what they're doing in
I
New
get
York
not being
too.
able to pay 1,200 a month for rent, right? For rent, but still making ends meet. Imagine today, bro.
Oh my God.
And that's not everywhere in the US. I mean, I lived in South Florida, so that was different. But dude, imagine that.
You got to
That
think
was
about New York. You got to think about places like
that
you
was New
said
York.
where for a fact California, like Los Angeles, like I wouldn't even want to live over there. I don't care how much I would make off a hex. Send me to Puerto Rico. I want to buy some land. I'm not trying to.
Facts. No, you're 100% right, dude. And dude, it's a lot. I feel like maybe today is going to be a little bit more difficult. We're going to see a lot of those same stories, but it falls back into that conversation about the wealth effect, bro. Because once again, maybe one of your decisions was to buy a house, and let's say you lose your job and you can't pay for that mortgage anymore. That's how houses go in foreclosure. You bought at the top of the market. Your mortgage was 4,000, 3,000, 3,500 a month. you're gonna pay for a $3,500 mortgage, and your house is worth like 20-30% less after a year of owning it. And we haven't maybe gotten to that extent yet, but that's what's going to start to happen, right? Like that's where those opportunities are going to come for people in, well, in this case, the real estate market, right? Like if you get involved in the real estate market, you're going to be buying a lot of foreclosed homes. I remember a lot of people who got their start in the real estate market buying foreclosed homes, homes that were like destroyed or something happened to the homes and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Um, Once again, it creates opportunity. So as much as people are scared of a recession, you got to still consider the fact that there is a lot of opportunity for it. And honestly, I don't think we're even close to the bottom yet. You have time to save up, get your financial situation right, redetermine how you're moving, how your financials are day to day, yo, and get with the program
Yes,
and seize that
there's so many
opportunity.
ways to leverage. Yep.
100%, bro, because the reality is these opportunities don't happen too often. Recessions don't happen too often. Imagine the last recession was 14 years ago. It took 14 years for the markets to bottom out again, right? Or to soon to bottom out again. And that after that bottom is where people bought up, held for 10 years and created generational wealth.
Absolutely. I plan on living for another 10 years, but knowing what I know right now, listen like to the Rich Dad Poor Dad podcast and everything, like they say this is the time to acquire, real estate and assets. And it's really not hard. You know, you can even do it with a credit card to start, a down payment on something.
No, 100%. We got over here. Hex is the way it goes. 2009, we saw slumlords lose their 12 houses, which all had mortgages because people wouldn't pay rent. True. True. That's another perspective. People out here renting homes. The people living in the homes wouldn't pay rent. They couldn't pay the 12 houses that they own. That's a big one. That's a very
Yeah.
big one. I'm here thinking from like a small perspective. That's true. There's a lot of people, bro, right now who bought homes, renting them out. Their people living in them won't be able to pay rent,
But it was similar right now with COVID, with the people renting and the
right?
homeowners,
That was like
people,
a simulated kind of form of, yeah, 100%.
that was exactly kind of the same. But people, you couldn't kick them out because of COVID.
Yeah.
If they lost their job or people just chose not to pay because they would use that excuse.
Yeah, I mean they kind of got a kickback, but they definitely had to survive for a bit. Like that whole 2 year period was very like uncertain and stuff like that. A lot of people were going through it. We'll see how high the rates. Yeah, they raised the rates. Yeah, I'm telling you, they're gonna push rates like 18%. They're gonna push rates stupid high. Robert Kiyosaki, bro, he talks about how when he was buying his first home, rates were 14%, 15% interest rates. That's what I'm talking about. He's like 4% interest rate, 6% interest. That's low. He's like, that's what he's saying now, right? Years later, he's like, that's low. That for me is like he started off with like 14, 15% interest rates. But think about what it's gonna do to price of those homes, right? You got to find that equilibrium where things kind of shift. There's definitely going to be that. I mean, this isn't a real estate channel. I mean, it could be, but we can talk a little
I
more
mean, but
about
it is still a correlation though
there
with,
is there
like you were
100%
talking
is.
about trying to like create that extra income, take advantage of the opportunity to acquire assets. So
No facts. It says it take 18 months from when they started raising rates until we feel it. Yeah, for sure. It's gonna take a little time. I think 2023, early 2023, that's probably going to be where we feel most of it. And not to mention October, a lot of people have this thing that in October 26th or something like that, like there's going to be like this crazy day. If something happens, don't mark my words, it wasn't me, I promise, right? Like it's
purge.
supposedly going to be like this whole crazy situation going on. But yeah, like they said, check out October's probably going to be a month that it gets a little crazy in the markets as well. Is that so that is summer next year when we feel the rates are what the rates are doing to the economy. Yeah, for sure. No, I definitely agree, man. I definitely agree with you. And so yeah, like that conversation about like just real estate in general, when these prices do drop, consider interest rates, consider what a comfortable monthly mortgage is, and then consider buying real estate. Like I want to buy a home, but I'm not gonna do it now. You feel me? Like it just doesn't make sense. And regardless, like if I do purchase a home at the right price with a decent interest rate, I'll be paying like okay, maybe 2,500 or more, or depending on the home, of course, right? But I can always refinance the home in the future at a lower rate.
Yeah. But
You
did
feel
you
me? So
know
you
that
have options.
lenders are more likely to approve you if you're going for a doubles, a duplex, or triplex versus
Right.
a single family home. You're going to get approved, and they're going to approve you at the rate as if you were renting out those other units. You
Facts.
understand? So right away, you can start figuring out in your head, okay, I'm going to bring in this amount, and this will cover this. So I'm kind of thinking about that as well. But
I'm
I'm gonna have to
focusing on
roll
that.
these over.
Yeah,
Excuse
I'm
me.
focusing on that heavy right now because the reality is like the net worth that I've been able to amass with investing in like in cryptocurrency in general, is benefiting me heavily. And so the next move ideally would be real estate. Now here's a conversation I want to open up for, right? Because the reality is you have a net worth that's built off of intangible assets that are generating you wealth, generating you or really daily income, right? And you kind of have to sit back and be like, okay, do I want to transfer this for smaller gains just to own physical property? Which also comes with the added kind of like stress of having physical property, right? Like if I own a home, I can't just up and leave a country. I got to worry about selling the house. You know what I mean? I got to worry about property taxes. I got to worry about a lot of other stuff as opposed to just investing in cryptocurrency and having my assets focus on that one specific asset class. Now, let me ask you this: how do you feel about owning property? Do you think that it's a necessity moving into the future? Do you recommend it? Like, what's your outlook on it?
I mean, it all depends how you feel about the delayed gratification and where you could buy in crypto and wait. If you're that kind of person, you could wait, then yeah, absolutely go all in a crypto. But if you know you need that extra income to have on hand, then yeah, I would say acquire other assets as like real estate, where you could, hey, at the end of the month, you're going to get a check and you have regular fiat to use. You don't have to worry about gas fees and all this other stuff. You have the actual physical cash to still, survive. But like I said, if I'm enjoying the delay gratification aspect of it for
Yeah.
once, you know, because I was used to always having things my way, but I like this aspect. So that's why I've been trying to go more all in with the crypto part.
Yeah, facts. I think the crypto part it did something good to me because I mean, really, the reality is network marketing helped me out with that a lot, like in my personal development with delaying that gratification for like the things that I wanted, setting goals, focusing on the long term. But the crypto side was more so of a tangible or intangible, better said, form of me seeing income by waiting and seeing how investments kind of vest over time. I didn't get into real estate early, but I got into hex early, and that for me was a really big W, and seeing what it can possibly do over the next 5, 10, 15 years. Like my question, like my personal internal debate is, do I sell off for physical assets, right? And now my decision is my decision. I'll eventually make it, but I do want to open up that narrative because I'm sure there's people out there thinking the same thing. Like, is it possible? Now I'm going to give you both of my thoughts on this, right? If there's I want to own a home. So regardless of what I'm saying here, I want to own a home at one point. I'm sure a lot of people want to own a home. So I would do it, right? Like I think at some point it is more valuable to maybe have something or a place where you can live and experience life on a physical level than to just have a bunch of untangible assets and like be nomading around. I would love to have that ability to own a home. So for me, it's definitely an option. Now building a portfolio of homes, that's a little bit different for me. You know what? Something I was considering though, commercial real estate. Commercial real estate looks really interesting to me. That for me looks really cool because I feel like yes, maybe worrying about real estate itself may not be the play, but business is my play. I love business, and being in that business world, that for me, I think in commercial real estate probably is where I have like a little bit more of a home as far as a diversified portfolio. And so like if I can focus on creating a profitable portfolio where I cash flow every single, because that's the goal too. The reality is you're creating a cash flow, right? Like the program is called Cash Flow Amigos. So the show is called Cash Flow Amigos, right? Like you wanna create a cash flow. You want to create a monthly steady income that you can rely on over time. And where that comes from is very important, right? If it comes from real estate, like you said, you have something that pays you in fiat. Is there. That rent is going to come in if it's rented out, right? It's you can rely on that rent, and that's going to be money you can count on to either pay the mortgage or pay yourself, or however that situation is
You
playing
can
out.
still DCA in.
Facts. But what we've been able to build also though in direct comparison is a cash flowing asset that is gaining us interest in hex that you can then sell for fiat and still be able to live and still be able to earn income. And the reality is like the at the rate that these T shares are printing, man, I mean it's quick how much this stuff is coming in. And once price, for example, with the hypothetical examples, I mean, I'll give you a hypothetical example, right? Like let's talk about it. You have, let's say someone is able to acquire what like how much is a t-shirt right now? A t-shirt is $807, right? One t-shirt is $807. And let's say you own that t-shirt, or yeah, let's say you own 10 of those t-shirts, right? That's $8,000. So you invest 8 bands, 8 grand, and then that gets you 10 t-shirts. 10 t-shirts paying 6.2 hex per day on average. It's 62 hex a day multiplied, right, by 365. So this is 1 year's worth of income. That's 22,320 hex. 22,320 hex. At today's price, okay, that is around $740 a year, right? But under the assumption, 22,320 hex, with a hex price of, let's say, well, my favorite use case is $7 worth of hex. That's $156,000 that you made in that 1 year holding those 10 t-shirts. Name me a property that's gonna make you
Yeah.
156K. You know what I mean? Like hypothetically, right? Like, name me a property that's gonna do those numbers. It's hard to find. It's very hard to find. So when you look at the gains, when you really compare the gains for the two, right? Yes, there are benefits to holding tangible assets like real estate, commercial, or residential, however you want to see it. But my guy, like, look at what we've been able to build over here. You know what I'm trying to say? So where are the trade-offs? I think for me personally, and for a lot of other people too, is going to come back to the comfort of owning a home. And you're a homeowner, right, Sean? What do you feel like for you is like the W of owning the home? Like, really, because I hope you know this, that people are selling their
I
properties,
mean, you got to
or
think
people
about it. The
sold
people
their
have
properties for
kids.
hex. Like, there are people who did RE and started off in real estate, and they sold their properties for hex. There are people who are selling their hex for properties. As a homeowner, talk to me a little bit about, like, what's your perspective owning a home?
I
What do
mean,
you like about it?
like seriously, now that I know what I know, that this is more of a liability for me,
Hmm.
especially with the market. Like it's not an asset. I would have bought a double at least if that was going to be my end goal. I would have bought a double a long time ago. So now, I mean, I started an LLC and I'm gonna roll it over to take over so that debt to income ratio is like next to none, pretty much. So instead of having the car and the house under my name, it's going to go over to the LLC so that I could potentially, reinvest into something else. Because right now, if I needed money, a lender's not going to give me money because of this, my debt to income ratio is being so high. So I'm just having I mean, it's some people's dreams because if you have kids. So I can see, the people that didn't have kids selling their house to buy hex, you know.
Yeah, I feel you on that. I think some of the people that sold had kids. I'm not gonna lie. So my question to them is, what made them sell the house? What made them sell the house? There's people selling their cars for hex. There's people selling. I mean, and by no means am I telling people to go out there and do this stuff. But I'm saying, like, this is the decision that people are making, right? And so
I think somebody bought an RV and sold their house and bought. I think I heard something
sold
about
their
that.
house,
They
bought an
bought
RV.
they sold their
There's a
house,
bunch of
bought an
stories out
RV,
there.
and used the rest and lived out of that and used the rest for hex.
Yeah, there's a bunch of stories out there of people doing what some would think is crazy ish, uh, for some hex. But the reality is like, with the hypothetical example I just gave, 10 T shares over the course of a year, making you 22,320 hex in interest alone, right? Hypothetically, 6.2 hex per day payout per T share, making you 156K at a $7 hex. I mean, bro, that's crazy. Not including what your principal went up, right? Like, what's the worth of the home? You could have bought the home back after a year of having those hex, right? So it's like,
I mean,
there's a lot of things to consider. There's gonna, like, and look, there's a lot of money that's gonna be left on the table. There's a lot of what ifs that are gonna come about a year, 2 years from now. Like, what if I would have done this, or what if I would have done that,
I
right?
mean, you're
Trust me,
gonna
I get
laugh
it. I'm
though.
guilty. I'm guilty of
When I
doing it.
leased the car, it's a 4-year lease, right? I'm like, in my head, I'm thinking about hex. I'm like, I'm just gonna buy it out.
Yeah,
That's
that's the
my
option, right?
mentality. I mean, that's one thing. I have that go big or go home mentality. So I'm like,
Yeah.
you know what? It don't matter. 4 years, full run. Oh, okay. I'm just gonna buy it out.
Yeah, and you see, that's the thing. That's what's happening with a lot of people, that they're making these wild decisions, but it's they're, how can I say, bro? Like, it's they're not as crazy when you see the outcome of how some of what happens to a lot of these people that made these decisions, right? Um, and so yeah, man, like, we are technically in a recession or headed for one, however you want to see it, but there's still opportunity in these moments. And so I really want to make it clear to people that, like, regardless of what's happening, your perspective is what's going to define your outcome, because a lot of people are seeing this as a great opportunity to become cash heavier. A lot of people are seeing this as a great opportunity if they haven't already sold some of their assets and purchased back and and sold some of the assets and became very cash heavy. A lot of people came uh into these past few years saying, I'm going to start selling my assets and remain cash heavy so that when this moment happens, which inevitably will happen, a lot of people were anticipating a recession for 2 3 years. Some people were sitting on millions of dollars, six figures, tens of thousands of dollars, just waiting for a bear market, right? And now that we're kind of getting there, which, I mean, honestly, I look at my stock portfolio, it's down 74%, and I don't like stocks. I just had it there. And if I'm down 72%, 72.82%, I know there's a lot of other people out there that are down 72.82%. You know what I mean? So there's some people who are right now very cash heavy looking to make some big purchases. And now you got to really identify what were they thinking versus what you were thinking, what was going on in those moments. And when I say you, I mean in general, right? I ask myself these same questions constantly. What's the difference in that psychology, right? Once again, bringing it back to RH, what did he, when he was thinking like, damn, there's opportunity in Bitcoin, versus someone else was saying this is a total scam, right? But that difference in action is ultimately what came out to the result that we have today, right? People, really successful off this stuff. Um, and so, yeah, I mean, what I would say is look at both sides, be very weary of, what other people say online, whether it be negative or positive about any investment out there. Clearly, there's people who feel some type of way about making these investments. But do your own research. Like, get around people who know what they're talking about. Don't just get on TikTok and watch a 15-second, 30-second clip of someone, BSing an industry or BSing a topic. Like, I encourage you to go out there and seek counsel, seek information, because that could be the difference between you being extremely successful 5-10 years down the line versus looking back and being like, damn, what if, right? And I definitely didn't want to be a what if. I definitely didn't want to be a what if. I mean, I told you I didn't get to experience 2008. You said that you hardly remember. You were playing ball at the time,
Yeah, but
right?
I did
But
hear
we
about
have, what's our excuse
somebody
now?
telling me about Bitcoin. People were telling me about Bitcoin back then, and I had the money then, but I didn't want to be
How
like
did
the
they
what
come
if
to you
this
about it? How
time.
did that come up in conversation? Like, what were they telling you about it?
I honestly could not remember. That was just such a long time ago. But what I can tell you this time, I didn't want to be the what if, right? And the fact that I know I wanted to be involved with a project if I did get into it, as I was learning the very beginning from the ground up. And then you listen to Richard Hart and about the evolving and evolution, and I'm like, okay, yeah, he makes a lot of sense. There's no way that this is only going to be the one of its kind and that's it. Like there's gonna be something that's gonna come and supersede it. But then when you got Hex now, you're saying it's the first of its kind certificate of deposit. By the time anything but to try to come out to touch it, it's just gonna keep evolving. Look at everything that is done within the ecosystem now. Constantly new projects. So by the time you know everybody really starts knowing about it and adapting to it, and someone else tries to come out with another certificate of deposit, you already can imagine what Richard Hart is gonna come out with then.
No, I agree, bro. I definitely agree. Yeah. I found out about Bitcoin in 2017. 2000, yeah, 2017. And the second I found out about it, I was pretty much hooked. I'm not gonna lie. And I'm grateful that I had that opportunity. And two, I'm grateful that I trusted myself to continue to learn about it, because years down the road, I've realized, bro, and this is something that I tell people all the time. There was two things that I realized about these individuals I was meeting back in 2017, back in 2018. That one, they knew something I didn't know, and two, they were in it for at least 4 to 5 years before they became multimillionaires. That was what I realized. That was the constant between every single individual, whether they got into XRP, because one of my mentors got stupid bread off of XRP. Another buddy of mine was in Bitcoin. He's on Vice. His name is Ivan Paychecks. We haven't. I mean, I haven't seen these guys in years, but like these dude, and they're still on Instagram talking their stuff. You feel me? Like building their brands and doing their thing. He bought one of the first pieces of real estate with Bitcoin in Miami. Right? He has a whole Vice article. If you look him up on the
Wow.
internet, you'll find him. You know, guys who were in it for years. But what I realized was people who were in it for 4 or 5 years were becoming multimillionaires, bro. And so when I realized that, I was like, damn, is that all I got to do? Like just be involved for 4 to 5 years. I mean, 4 to 5 years later, I mean, I'm not gonna say much, but like, you know,
I'm here.
you feel me? I'm here exactly, and so it's crazy, bro. It's crazy. I encourage you guys, bro. Like if you're in it or you just got started, however that's going, like consider what I'm telling you. 4 to 5 years, and that's
Yeah,
why I love this narrative of
it's
delayed
exciting.
gratification. 4 to 5 years, and ironically enough, that's a whole bull cycle. If you can catch a bear market and invest and be smart enough to remove some of your position, not completely throw out all of your notes, not sell it all completely, reinvest a little bit more as the prices start to dip, continue to buy more, and just stay in the game for 4 or 5 years, bro. You're destined for greatness. You're destined for greatness based on how these markets have been moving. If I tell you what has happened over the past few years, and we apply that same thinking to what's happened, I mean, there's a reason why these people are super successful, and it's exciting. It's really exciting. For me, it could have been a bust, bro. These past 4 years could have been a complete bust. It could have gone to zero, but it hasn't. And how many times has people said, "Oh, it's all gonna go to zero"? How many
I
times have
mean,
you have you heard the
that's what
sky
I
is
love
falling?
about the fact that you say it's a feature. I was telling my buddy that he's cutting my hair. I was like, dude, you don't understand. I'll take that 80, 95% dip so that I can kick 1,000x after that. Like he's like, he doesn't understand it, but hey, it's not for everyone, right?
No, you're 100% right, bro. And so once again, like the idea that it's a feature, I love that you mentioned that. The idea that it's a feature, it's all about your perspective. It's literally all about your perspective. Some people don't catch it. For some people, it goes straight over their heads. Some people don't catch that. Why is it a feature? Because of your perspective. The fact that it goes down 94%, the fact that it's down 94% is an opportunity in and of itself.
Yeah.
Does the S&P 500 go down 94%? Never. And if it did once, you feel me, years ago in the 30s, but when has it happened ever? The max opportunity you've probably gotten from like the S&P, the Dow Jones, all that stuff, like 40%, 30%, 60 maybe, but 90? I mean, if that happened, of course, it would be a lot uglier and stuff like that for the economy and whatnot. But clearly, people are getting through it in crypto. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's a narrative change. People are getting through these times in crypto. I think that if people were just smart and were able to understand how these cycles worked and didn't fall victim to everything happening, because the problem is people buy the top and sell the bottom.
Yes.
They just need to change that perspective. They just made a little. You're on 96.3.
Exactly by changing it, it allowed me to just accept it. Hey, it doesn't bother me. You know how many times I would drive my truck and go to work and not even look at anything about Hex and just listen to videos and podcasts and everything.
A big thing is waiting, bro. A
Yeah,
big
you
thing is
have to.
waiting. You gotta buy. You gotta be. Hey, and discipline plays a major role. Like I've been buying since 30 cents. It dropped to 20. I bought more. It dropped to 10. I bought more. It dropped to 2. I bought more. Like people don't realize that it's the discipline of you just buying more, because the reality is people who bought Bitcoin at $5, $10, $15. I think I respect them a little bit more than people who bought at 2, because they had faith in the fact that it probably was going to go up. Like they
I got
had
in at
some level of
13.
faith. Yeah, you feel me? Like there's very like people, there are very few people that you hear that they either bought the top or they bought the bottom. There's very few people that bought in between. Those people that bought in between is because they were buying on the way down. They knew that at some point it was going to be worth more, in the future. And that's exciting, bro.
Oh yeah,
And,
and that's exactly what happened though. As I started learning about it, when I went and took out a personal loan, and I just started DCAing in, and I caught it all the way down to 3. I caught it at 2 one morning because I used to get up for work at 2 o'clock in the morning,
yeah,
and I'm like, okay, perfect. That's when I realized, okay, gas fees are cheap, and yeah, and I'm in like a little dilemma now because I have all this liquid hex now, and now that I'm learning more about the T-share rates, from your course, I'm like, shit, I could, what am I gonna do? But So I'm in a little dilemma if I'm just
T-shares,
gonna
bro,
go.
and I want to wrap it up with this idea of the T-shares and talk about the T-shares a little bit, like give that some love because the reality is, bro, is that everything. The thing about Hex is the fact that inflation does affect Hex. There is an inflation rate in Hex. 3.69% per year is the annual inflation rate that Hex feels, right? And the only ones that actually benefit off of it are people who stake. Anybody who staked actually has zero inflation because they're earning the inflation. It's not like when you hold the US dollar, when you hold USD, what's happening is they're printing money, but you're trusting the government to use that money somewhere else that doesn't go in your bank account. Right? So like inflation is so massive because when they print it, you don't get a piece of it. When they print it, what happens is they go spend it somewhere else. And so it drops the value of your money. The same thing happens with Hex. There's people who did 10,000x on Hex, no staking. That was no staking. That happened zero staking. But there's people that did 18,000x, 15,000x because they staked. And maybe they didn't sell it because it's still staked. But the reality is when this prices go back up, if and when these prices go back up, right? They're going to get the full benefit of that 15,000x and then more if it continues to go higher. And on top of that, so if you held it liquid, you weren't earning all that extra inflation. They were earning that extra inflation the entire time. So the reality, they're not even feeling that inflation. They're just earning every single dollar of it, or every single hex of it, right? And that's the beauty of owning Hex. Like Hex has inflation. Everything, Bitcoin has inflation. Ethereum has inflation, right? Like all these things have inflation, but you got to be the one earning the inflation. Like if you can play the government and every time the government printed a billion and gave it to Ukraine, you can get it. I mean, I would do it. Who knows where that money's going? I mean, maybe it's going, maybe it's not. I don't want to get flagged. You feel me? Like they say it's going where they say it's going. I'm not going to question it. But the reality is what if you were getting a piece of that? Instead of them printing it and then giving it to someone else or going somewhere else, what if they were giving it right back to you? Well, guess what? That's what it's like when you stake your Hex. And so having these T-shares determines how much you're getting based on how long you're staking, a whole bunch of factors. It's everything about Hex. You're still going to win, but the reality is you can win bigger if you just learn how to play the game, which is that delaying gratification game, and get the T-shirt and get as many T-shirts as you want. I think if you're going to look at it for a T-shirt, for the T-shirt, look at for how many T-shirts you have, right? And then if your whole thing is locking it up, bro, like, yo, now that can't even be an excuse. Like, yo, just buy Desi, buy Maxi. You feel me? Like, buy Lucky, buy all these other assets where you don't even have to lock it up. Like, it's liquid. Okay, now it's liquid. What are you going to do now? You're still earning it. You get me? You're still making money off of it. So, like, where's the BS? There's no excuse right now, bro. You're saving on T-shares. It's liquid now. Like, there's so many benefits to it. I encourage
See,
everyone
now,
to start.
I'm ready to make moves now.
You feel me? It's exciting, bro. It's exciting. But regardless, we still have to wait. So the reality is it comes down to the discipline. It comes down to all that stuff. But yo, Sean, I mean, it's been an hour, bro. I mean, we can keep going, I'm sure, but I know you got some things you got to do. I'm going to start heading to bed. I got to be up at 6 a.m. tomorrow.
Yeah, you gotta go pump
But
some
bro, I just want
iron.
to
You
say
gotta stay
thank you for tuning
consistent.
in. I'd be more than happy to run these calls with you always, bro. So you're always welcome here. I want to say everyone, if you tuned in, thank you so much. I appreciate you guys for getting here, to the call and just learning with us, having a good time with us. If you guys want to learn more about Hex, if you want to learn more about crypto, I encourage you to go to cashflowamigos.com. We're here to help you guys out. There's a super supportive community that you guys can get involved with. That can teach you guys how to become successful, how to earn cash flow through crypto, and really help you guys to earn a new level of income. So, Sean, if you want to share your socials, or I don't know if you want to stay private, it's 100% up to you.
I mean, you can always find me at Sean Ramirez on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram, also on Telegram as well in the community. Look forward to having anybody new that wants to grow.
Facts. That's love, bro. Yeah, we'll put your socials in the description as well, bro. You just send them to me. I'll go ahead and add them in. Yeah, guys, once
All
again,
right.
thank you so much. And we'll see you guys on the next one, guys. Take care.